you said you saw literally hundreds of unidentifiable flying objects.
Yes, they were flying quite high. How high we couldn't tell because we couldn't get anywhere near their altitude. But they were either very large craft way up or smaller craft still well above what we could get to.
The Black Knight satellite mystery might finally be solved, and the answer isn't just unsettling. It's terrifying.
So Jimmy, I've been researching the Black Knight satellite, and I heard that you found some incredible information. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, this report, this is an actual NSA document, but what is interesting in this report and how this may tie into the Black Knight satellite is they are talking about communication through specific frequencies.
Wow.
And how this would be encoded and decoded, how we could receive it, and then how we could turn around and communicate back with ET.
When the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1 in 1957, the world celebrated the first man-made object to orbit Earth.
You are hearing the actual signals transmitted by the Earth-circling satellite, one of the great scientific feats of the age.
But what if that milestone wasn't actually humanity's first encounter with an artificial satellite? For more than a century, people across the globe have reported sightings of an unidentified object circling our planet. They've seen it, tracked its signals, and even photographed it. This enigma came to be known as the Black Knight satellite. And if the decoded transmissions from this object are accurate, it has been observing humanity for a staggering 13,000 years. Let's examine how this mystery unfolded and what it could mean for our understanding of life beyond Earth. In 1899, at his experimental station in Colorado Springs, Nikola Tesla was conducting groundbreaking research on atmospheric electricity and wireless power transmission. During one of his experiments, Tesla's equipment unexpectedly began receiving a series of rhythmic signals. These weren't random static or natural interference. They followed a deliberate pattern, repeating at consistent intervals. Tesla became convinced that he had detected an artificial transmission, something that defied conventional explanation. Initially, Tesla theorized that the signals originated from somewhere high in Earth's atmosphere. However, his calculations quickly ruled out that possibility. The signals were coming from much farther away, from somewhere beyond the planet's atmosphere entirely. Tesla was so certain of his interpretation that he publicly declared these signals were evidence of extraterrestrial communication. He stated, as recorded in a local newspaper at the time, "I believe numbers are being used for communication because numbers are universal." While the scientific establishment respected Tesla's genius, many considered his claims about alien transmissions to be the product of an eccentric mind. A few years later, Guglielmo Marconi, the man credited with inventing the radio, also encountered the same mysterious signals. Then, in the 1920s, a Norwegian radio engineer named Jürgen Hals made an even more puzzling discovery. While conducting routine radio experiments, Hals noticed that his transmissions were being reflected back to him with a significant delay. Normally, radio waves bounce between Earth's surface and the ionosphere in predictable patterns, returning within fractions of a second. But Hales observed echoes arriving up to 15 seconds after the original transmission, a phenomenon that defied known physics. These anomalous returns became known as long-delayed echoes, or LDS. For decades, amateur and professional radio operators documented these strange signals, but no one could explain why they occurred. Some scientists proposed that the echoes were reflecting off plasma clouds, while others suggested they were bouncing off the moon. But none of these theories fully accounted for the irregular timing and inconsistent behavior of the signals. To this day, LDS remain an unsolved puzzle in radio physics. Fast forward to May 1954, 3 years before Sputnik 1 became humanity's first official satellite. A news story emerged that sent shockwaves through scientific and military circles. The report, published in 2 American newspapers, claimed that 1 or more artificial satellites were already orbiting Earth. The source of this stunning revelation was Major Donald Kehoe, a Marine Corps aviator and UFO researcher who had established the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP. Kehoe asserted that scientists working at White Sands Proving Ground in New Mexico had detected two objects in orbit at altitudes of approximately 400 and 600 miles. These objects, he claimed, were transmitting radio signals at regular intervals, reminiscent of what Tesla had detected decades earlier. Dr. Lincoln LaPaz, an astronomer from the University of New Mexico, was allegedly heading the research effort to track and identify these mysterious satellites. The Pentagon, however, was less than pleased about this information becoming public. Officials scrambled to contain the story, but it was too late. The cat was out of the bag. Shortly after Kehoe's announcement, NASA and various international observatories confirmed the detection of unknown orbiting objects. French astronomers, among others, corroborated these findings. The U.S. military initially feared that these objects were Soviet spy satellites, secretly launched ahead of the official space race. But that theory quickly fell apart when it became clear that the technology required to launch such satellites simply didn't exist in the 1950s. In 1957, a Venezuelan researcher was tracking Sputnik 2 as it passed over Caracas when he noticed something unusual. A second object was visible near the satellite, but it was moving in the opposite direction. Sputnik 2, like all early Soviet and American satellites, followed a prograde orbit, meaning it traveled from west to east, aligned with Earth's rotation. The object the researcher observed was moving retrograde, east to west, against the planet's spin. This was a technological impossibility for any satellite launched by either superpower at the time. Over the next several years, similar sightings accumulated from around the world. In 1960, the U.S. Department of Defense finally addressed the phenomenon. On February 11th, the New York Times published an official statement from the Pentagon. An unidentified silent satellite has been discovered circling the Earth in a near-polar orbit by United States tracking stations. The identity and origin of the mystery satellite, which has been dubbed the Dark Satellite, are not known despite nearly 2 weeks of tracking. This confirmation reignited public fascination with the mysterious object. Astronomers worldwide began reporting their own sightings, but they soon realized something unsettling. The satellite didn't follow a predictable orbit. It appeared on some nights and vanished on others, defying any attempt to establish a consistent schedule. This erratic behavior made it nearly impossible to track, fueling speculation that it was under intelligent control. The Cold War context only heightened the anxiety. The Pentagon was genuinely terrified that the dark satellite might represent a new breed of Soviet reconnaissance technology, an invisible spy that could appear without warning and disappear just as quickly. Time magazine covered the story, detailing the Navy's efforts to track the object. Grumman Aircraft, a major defense contractor, was even tasked with photographing the satellite, a mission they reportedly completed in August 1960. But those photographs, along with Grumman's report, were never made public. In May 1961, astronomers at the Smithsonian Observatory in Harvard detected the satellite and issued a public statement. The satellite was first spotted over Florida, an unsuspecting, unpredicted bright satellite. Stations around the world have been asked to help track it. One of the researchers who took this call seriously was Jacques Vallée, a French-born astronomer working in Paris. Vallée observed the satellite extensively, tracking its movements and even capturing it on film. His findings were remarkable. The satellite was in polar orbit, a trajectory that allows an object to survey every point on Earth's surface as the planet rotates beneath it. No human-made satellite had yet achieved polar orbit at the time, making this discovery even more extraordinary. Additionally, the object was enormous, approximately the size of an oil truck and weighing an estimated 15 tons. By comparison, the heaviest satellite launched by any country at that point weighed just a few hundred pounds. Vallée compiled his research, including photographs, film footage, and observational data, into a comprehensive file. He submitted this dossier to his supervisor, expecting it to contribute to scientific knowledge. Instead, his materials were immediately confiscated. The photographs were destroyed, and the film was erased. The official explanation was that the observatory was embarrassed by its failure to identify the object, a justification that Vallée has always found unconvincing. Vallée, who is still alive today, has never forgotten this incident. He wasn't a UFO enthusiast before encountering the Black Knight satellite, but the experience fundamentally changed his perspective. Since then, he has authored 15 books and numerous articles challenging mainstream scientific orthodoxy and advocating for serious investigation into unexplained aerial phenomena. His career serves as a testament to how a single unexplained encounter can reshape a scientist's entire worldview. Until the early 1960s, all observations of the Black Knight satellite came from ground-based telescopes and radio equipment. To truly confirm the existence of this object, someone needed to see it firsthand from orbit. That opportunity arose in 1963 during the Mercury 9 mission piloted by Gordon Cooper. Cooper was the epitome of the American astronaut, confident, daring, and unflappable. He had learned to fly as a child, went on to become a fighter pilot, and eventually joined the elite ranks of NASA's Mercury program. His Mercury 9 mission set a new endurance record for American spaceflight, spending more time in orbit than any previous mission. When his spacecraft experienced a complete systems failure during re-entry, Cooper didn't panic. He manually piloted the capsule to a safe splashdown, landing just 4 miles off target. But during his mission, Cooper had reported something unusual, a green, glowing object that appeared ahead of his capsule. Ground control confirmed the sighting, and tracking stations noted that the object was moving in a retrograde direction, east to west. NBC News covered the story, but upon Cooper's return, the press was forbidden from questioning him about the sighting. NASA's official explanation was that Cooper had experienced a carbon dioxide buildup in his spacecraft, leading to hallucinations. Cooper, a military officer bound by protocol, publicly denied the incident during his NASA career. But after retiring, he spoke candidly about his experiences. He revealed that while serving as a test pilot at Edwards Air Force Base, he had witnessed multiple unidentified craft, saucer-shaped vehicles that landed silently on retractable landing gear. Cooper claimed that even the most hardened test pilots were disturbed by what they observed at Edwards. He insisted that the U.S. government was engaged in a systematic cover-up of UFO information, a position he maintained until his death. He also testified about these matters before the United Nations, citing hundreds of radar-confirmed reports from fellow pilots. As reports of the Black Knight satellite proliferated, researchers began asking deeper questions. What is this object? Why is it here? And what does it want? The first glimpse of an answer came in 1973, when Scottish researcher Duncan Lunan published his analysis of the LDE data. Lunan had been studying the Norwegian radio echo data, looking for patterns that others might have missed. He noticed subtle variations in the timing of the echoes, which he suspected might encode some form of communication. To test this hypothesis, Lunan created a graph with time delay on one axis and echo position on the other. The initial results were unremarkable, but when he reversed the axes, something unexpected emerged, a collection of dots that formed the recognizable shape of the constellation Boötis. The only star in the constellation that appeared out of place was Epsilon Boötis. Lunan initially interpreted this as an indication of the satellite's origin point. To strengthen his case, he analyzed French radio echo data from 1929 and found the same pattern. Confident in his findings, Lunan continued his research. But one detail troubled him. Arcturus, the brightest star in Boötis, was slightly off-center. This discrepancy led him to reconsider his interpretation. Perhaps, Lunan theorized, the map wasn't showing the current sky. Instead, it might represent the sky as it appeared at some point in the distant past. This line of thinking aligned with a known astronomical phenomenon called axial precession. Over a 26,000-year cycle, Earth's axis slowly wobbles, subtly shifting the positions of stars in the night sky. When Lunan adjusted his star map to account for this movement, everything fell into place. The alignment was perfect. The implication was staggering. The Black Knight satellite had not arrived recently. It had been in Earth's orbit for approximately 13,000 years. Even more remarkably, Lunan claimed that the data contained a decipherable message, which he translated as follows.
Our home is Epsilon Wotus, which is a double star. We live on the sixth planet of 7, coming from the Sun, which is the larger of the two. Our sixth planet has 1 moon. Our fourth planet has 3. Our first and third planets each have 1. Our probe is in the position of Arcturus, known in our maps.
Despite the compelling nature of Lunan's claims, the scientific establishment remained skeptical. That skepticism began to erode in December 1998, when NASA released a series of photographs from Space Shuttle mission STS-88. The primary objective of this mission was to deliver the Unity node to the International Space Station. But on December 11th, astronauts captured images of something remarkable: a dark, irregularly shaped object floating in orbit near the shuttle. The photographs appeared to show a craft of some kind, its structure visible against the blackness of space. For proponents of the Black Knight theory, this was the definitive proof they had been seeking. After a century of speculation and ambiguous evidence, there was finally a photographic record of the mysterious object. NASA's official explanation was that the object was a thermal blanket that had drifted away during a spacewalk. While this explanation satisfied some, others pointed out inconsistencies. In some images, the object appears flat and fabric-like, consistent with a thermal blanket. In others, however, it appears solid and three-dimensional, with a structure that seems far too substantial to be a piece of loose debris. Assuming that the Black Knight satellite is real, the next question becomes, what is its purpose? One popular theory is that it represents an extraterrestrial probe dispatched by an advanced civilization to observe and monitor developing species. If intelligent life exists elsewhere in the galaxy, such probes would be a logical method of exploration, far cheaper and more practical than sending manned missions. When humanity achieves interstellar capability, we will likely adopt similar strategies. Alternatively, the Black Knight satellite might be a relic of an ancient human civilization. Some ancient texts describe a dark object orbiting Earth, sometimes called a dark arc, that was placed in orbit millennia ago. According to these accounts, the arc contains DNA or genetic material from various species, preserved against a catastrophic event that was expected to destroy life on the surface. By storing this genetic information in orbit, our ancestors ensured its survival through any natural disaster. And by placing it in orbit, they guaranteed that it would only be discovered once humanity had developed spacefaring technology. We now possess the technology to reach the Black Knight satellite. We could send a probe to investigate it, perhaps even retrieve it for examination. Why haven't we done so? The answer, some speculate, is that this has already happened, and that those who discovered its secrets were unwilling to share them. Of course, the Black Knight satellite legend is far from airtight. Many elements of the story can be explained through natural phenomena or misinterpretation. For instance, the signals detected by Tesla and Marconi are now believed to have originated from pulsars, rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit regular radio pulses. Pulsars weren't officially recognized until 1968, so early 20th century scientists naturally interpreted these signals as artificial broadcasts. While aliens could theoretically use pulsars for communication, the signals Tesla detected had a natural origin. The LDEs remain genuinely mysterious. Various explanations have been proposed, including atmospheric plasma clouds, solar reflections, and even lunar bounce. But none of these theories perfectly accounts for the observed phenomena. LDEs are one of the few aspects of the Black Knight mystery that remain scientifically unresolved, though most researchers believe they have natural, non-alien origins. Lunan's star map interpretation has also faced significant criticism. He himself later expressed doubt about his conclusions, acknowledging that his methodology was more intuitive than rigorous. Subsequent research has not confirmed his claims, and most astronomers regard his star map as a case of pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive patterns in random data. Similarly, the NASA photographs from STS-88 are ambiguous. In some frames, the object does appear to be a loose thermal blanket. NASA's explanation isn't inherently implausible. However, some images remain difficult to reconcile with the thermal blanket theory, leaving room for doubt. Even if the most sensational aspects of the Black Knight satellite story are debunked, important questions remain. Why did the Pentagon initially express official concern about a dark satellite in 1960? Why were Jacques Vallée's materials confiscated and destroyed? Why did Gordon Cooper, a decorated astronaut, insist that a government UFO cover-up was underway? Some specific incidents are particularly difficult to explain away. For example, the 1960 New York Times article described an object in retrograde orbit, a trajectory no human satellite could achieve at the time. While the U.S. government later claimed this was a case of mistaken identity involving the Discoverer 5 capsule, that explanation raises its own problems. Discoverer 5 was part of the Corona program, a classified spy satellite initiative whose details were only declassified years later. The government's cover story was itself a cover story, which naturally leads to skepticism about everything that followed. Similarly, the coordinated sightings from multiple international astronomers, occurring independently and across different years, suggest something real was present in orbit. While individual reports can be dismissed as errors, the sheer volume and consistency of these observations is harder to ignore. The Black Knight satellite may or may not be an alien artifact. It may be a misinterpretation of natural phenomena, a product of Cold War paranoia, or a genuine mystery that continues to defy explanation. But even if the specific claims about ancient aliens or encoded messages don't withstand scrutiny, there is clearly something in the story that remains unexplained. What I can say with confidence is that eyewitness accounts from credible sources, including astronauts and astronomers, should not be casually dismissed. These individuals risked their professional reputations by speaking out, and they had no obvious motive to fabricate their stories. Their testimonies suggest that there are aspects of the Black Knight satellite story that have not been fully investigated or disclosed. Science thrives on curiosity and skepticism. The Black Knight satellite represents an opportunity to exercise both, to ask difficult questions, demand transparency from those in power, and resist the easy answers that are often offered. Whether the answer is ultimately mundane or extraordinary, the journey of discovery is itself valuable. What do you think? Is the Black Knight satellite a genuine artifact of extraterrestrial intelligence, a relic of an ancient civilization, or something else entirely? Share your perspective in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this exploration of one of the great unsolved mysteries of our time, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that challenges conventional thinking. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your mind open to possibility.